Morning everybody. We had an elk come into the shop. The guy wants a Euro mount done of it, so I'm going to show you the process of how we clean these things up. So this guy brought this elk in already skinned out, which is awesome, but you want to try and clean off as much of this stuff with the knife as you can before you stick it in the beetles. It just speeds it up a little bit. Like eventually they will eat all this stuff off of it if you just stick it in as it is, but it's way faster and way less smelly if you clean a bunch of this stuff off before you put it in there. Next step is anybody to actually put it into the beetle tank, and then we'll check on it in a few days and see what it looks like. Okay, here is the beetle tank. So you can see he's down in there, and the beetles are going to start climbing all over him. You can see there's a few moving over there. So what I'll do is I'll cover this guy up with some of those rags in the bottom. It seems to make the beetles like it a little bit more. And then, yeah, we'll leave it for a few days and then it should be totally cleaned up. One other thing I forgot to mention that I'll often do is, especially on elk, because you can see they stick up so high like this. And I want to try and prevent the beetles from climbing up the antlers. And I have this thing taped up pretty solid, but just help prevent escape, I'll put some painter's tape around the antler like that. Just I find painter's tape doesn't leave any kind of residue or anything when you take it off. And then around that I'll put this, I'm not even sure what you call it. I just call it like tin tape. They use on like ducting and things like that. It's really slippery, so the beetles will climb up, they'll get to here and they can't get past it. So it helps prevent them from climbing up top here, potentially getting on one of these wires and trying to find somewhere they can escape. So yeah, just one extra thing I try and do to keep the beetles in the tank. There you can see those beetles are already trying to climb up that antler, but they can't get much past that tin tape there. So that's working pretty good. You can see they're already starting to crawl all over the place. See how many are underneath here. Oh yeah, there we go. See, they're starting to come onto them. I still got a bunch of skulls under there they're finishing up, so as soon as they're done those, there's a beaver skull down there. As soon as they're done those, they'll completely cover this thing up and it'll be cleaned up pretty quick. It's the next morning here, and you already see that skull's looking pretty clean already. So now we're going to start the most time-consuming part of this process is the degreasing. So we got them out of the beetle tank. I put them in here into the degreasing solution, which is basically just hot water with a lot of Dawn dish soap. So he's going to have to sit in there for a while. Probably add a little bit more and try and get some more of those antler stalks covered up with the water. So he'll sit in there and for quite some time. We'll have to probably change the water out a few times to make sure it's totally degreased, and then we'll start the whitening process. Something you want to keep in mind when you're doing an elk skull is they have these teeth called ivories. There's one on either side, so this one just popped off of here. You can see the other ones there. They pull out pretty easily. Like this one should pop out of there. If I had both hands, would pop off. This one just fell off. You gotta make sure you don't lose these during the process because they will fall off. Like this one literally just touched it and it fell off. So you want to make sure you keep track of these, so once you're done, you have everything whitened up, you can glue them back in there, or sometimes people make jewelry out of them or something like that, but that's something you want to pay attention to that's unique to an elk, so you don't lose these guys. Just took this guy out of the water, so it's time to start whitening it. The first thing I like to do is take the air compressor and try and blow as much of the water off of these guys as I can, get into all the nooks and crannies and blow any of the gunk that might have been in there that the beetles didn't get. The water's loosened up, get that all out of there. So I'll do that, and then we'll start whitening this thing. now that it's dry, more or less, we're going to put a bunch of peroxide on it. I use the 40 volume stuff. It's the strongest one I can get from the beauty salons and stuff like that. That's where I usually buy it. It's pretty cheap for the most part. I could buy the big jugs of it. It goes quite a long ways. So just take a brush, cover the whole thing. You may have to go do another coat, but this stuff lightens them up pretty quick. Over the entire thing, and then you just gotta let it sit. And public service announcement: always wear gloves when you're using this shit, because it burns like hell when it gets on your hands. Peroxide's been on there for a few days now, and it's looking really nice and white. So the next step after this is to rinse all that peroxide off of the skull. For that, I'm going to boil a bunch of water and use that, and then we'll start to see what that skull really looks like. It's a good idea anytime you put hot water on a skull, whether you're boiling it as your method of cleaning it, or you're doing this, rinsing the peroxide off, whatever you're doing. It's a good idea to put an elastic band around the nose. I might even add another one on there. It just helps keep all the bones tight together because they kind of separate with the heat. So I'm gonna add another one on here. That just helps keep everything together as it dries. Here's our finished elk Euro mount. What I love about using the beetles is you can see all the little nose bones inside are still intact. They clean up every little bit of meat that's on there. You get around on like the backside, all these things that's gonna be quite difficult to clean up using like a boiling method or something like that. The beetles just clean it all right up. So my opinion, they're one of the best ways to do skulls. As you can see, the results are pretty good.